All right, today we are talking all about sources of gathering food and how these different methods would have progressed over time and kind of the implications that would have meant and inferences we could make about cultural and biological evolution. So, your starter is this question here. I want you to pause and think about all of the possible ways throughout hominin history that food would have been gathered, all of the different methods of, yeah, getting sustenance. Go. Okay, so we've got a number of things here. We've got scavenging meat from already hunted carcasses from other predators. Um, we've got hunting our own game, vegetable fruit root gathering, and farming, so agriculture and domestication. Agriculture being the cultivation of land and breeding of animals and plants to provide all sorts of animal products like food, fiber, medicinal plants, and other products that sustain and enhance life. So those are four things there, and we're going to go quite heavily into how and why they progressed. So today you should be able to describe the trends in hominin cultural evolution in terms of acquiring food. Within that, you should be able to discuss the shift from what we call a nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle to a settled lifestyle, and also describe the impact of agriculture on a number of different stakeholders, I guess, humans, animals, and the environment. So a bit of history, very early human ancestors, so the Australopiths and Paranthropus genii, that's Lucy and Nutcracker Man, were vegetarian. They were nomadic, um, gatherers of vegetables, nuts, seeds, etc. There's some evidence that maybe Lucy ate small lizards and insects and other things like that, but nothing to the degree of hunting or scavenging. Um, Paranthropus ate a lot of nuts and seeds and also what they believe to be lots of grasses and really fibrous plant material that led to the selective pressure on their teeth. So if you have a look there on the left is a Paranthropus dental arcade showing molars that are 4 or 5 times the size of anatomically modern humans. So yeah, we went from vegetarianism through to, if we look at Homo habilis, he would have been one of the earliest scavenger gatherers, so still gathering vegetable and plant material, but also scavenging off carcasses that were killed by other predators in Africa. So using their sharp Alduin rocks to bash meat, bones, sorry, and also scrape meat off bones and eat it raw. So this supplemented an otherwise vegetarian diet that didn't have the tools or mental capacity, sorry, to be hunting yet, and they didn't have fire or anything like that. So, yep, that's habilis. But that scavenging would have provided a lot of sustenance and nutrients that allowed for the encephalization that moved the next hominins into hunting. So Homo erectus initially would have been a scavenger-gatherer as well, but progressed over the million years that they were around to hunter-gathering. So they used tools and weapons to bring down large megafauna. So you see some sort of ancient elephant-like thing there. And yeah, they had their hand axes and knives, also cleavers and scrapers for getting the meat off the bones. Unfortunately, um, a drawback to erectus hunting big game was that there was probably a lot of waste, so there would have been a lot of pressure on the environment and biodiversity. They also looked for low-risk hunting tactics that sometimes, yeah, did require wasting a lot of food, such as herding groups of animals off cliffs and into areas where, yeah, a lot of animals died and they wouldn't have got through all of that meat. So that's a real shame. There would have been a lot of environmental pressures on the sustainability of populations. And because they had use of fire, they were able to cook their meat. And yeah, gain a lot of extra calorific advantage from that. So, along the human line, there was a shift from the nomadic hunter-gatherer. So when we say the words nomadic, we mean that they didn't settle in one society or area. They would gather food and kind of empty that ecosystem and then move on to new ones and keep on the move, basically. So yeah, a move from nomadic hunter-gatherer to a settled lifestyle. This shift was probably likely due to climate change, the recession of glacial ice, warming of the land and sea, more rainfall and more grassy, bushy landscapes created gardens of Eden, is what they called them. So luscious areas with sustainable growth that allowed hunter foragers to kind of settle down for several generations at a time. But before this, because foraging requires humans to constantly move into new ecosystems while the old ones regrow, 6 to 8 million people is about the most foragers that the entire wood surface could actually support. So once hominins moved into a settled lifestyle and moved from hunter-gathering to agriculture, this represented a major shift in human activity. Scavenger-gatherers would have adapted themselves to resources and events happening around them, but hunters and farmers increasingly adapted the environment to suit them. So that would have, we're going to look at how that would have really impacted animals and the environment around them. So this would have happened about 10,000 years ago, agriculture, but a settled lifestyle would have happened quite a lot before that. So they would have settled and continued hunting before they moved into the idea of agriculture. So settling down and farming didn't happen at exactly the same time. So the Neolithic Revolution, which is when we started agriculture, that was about 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent, which is an area of the Middle East. So that would have had to come after Erectus had left Africa. The benefits and drawbacks of a nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle. So nomadic hunter-gathering was up to about 15,000 years ago. And I want you to pause here before you look at the notes or listen to the rest of the screencast. I want you to think about what benefits and drawbacks nomadic hunter-gathering would have had on humans, on the environment, and on other animals in the ecosystem. So there is a little blurb on SciPad page 305, and then there's a table there. So you can be filling in this information in that table, or you can do it in your book, wherever you feel more comfortable. So pause here, have a think, write some things down, come back. So we will go through the benefits first. A nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle would have had quite a few benefits, one of them being less exploitation of the environment. So as you're moving on constantly, there's less pressure on the food populations in that area. So there's reliable kind of maintenance of ecosystems as you shift out of them before totally disrupting them. There would have been less reliance on just a few sources of food. So of course, settling down, you really limit your options to the things that grow and live in that area. But moving constantly would have allowed you to scavenge and gather lots of different things at different times of the year in different areas, whether you're near the coast or near the mountains or in the bush, whatever. Another big one was the fact that hygienically, if that's even the context I can use that word, you're leaving body waste behind. So deceased members of your community, carcasses of the stuff you're eating, and obviously bodily waste would have been left behind as you continued moving. And you can think about the alternative to that when we look at a settled lifestyle. So there would have been less disease and pests and things like that. As you're constantly moving, you don't have to kind of sit and wallow in just grossness, basically, without the education to know that that's not going to be a great idea. The drawbacks to a nomadic hunter-gatherer lifestyle would have been a number of things, like the fact that you can't really accumulate any belongings when you are constantly on the move. You can't create shelter and make things that you can kind of keep unless you can keep them on your person as you move. there would have been less time for cultural development, as so much of your time would have been spent on looking for food, hunting, gathering, etc. So, yeah, just continuously thinking about where your next meal is coming from. There's also lots of energy lost keeping active because there is no surplus in the food provided. You know, the food that you can hunt and scavenge pretty much sustains you and perhaps some members of your family. But yeah, it's kind of everyone has to chip in to gather food. 100 calories of work in looking for food would equal about 100 calories of food. So yeah, there's no surplus to be shared around. And lastly, groups that are on the move constantly have to remain relatively small to be mobile and to be able to move together. So you can't build up massive communities if you are hunter-gathering in a nomadic sense. If you have any more, definitely put them down. And if you find any in your research, definitely put them down as well. Those are just my ideas. So now, obviously, if we're looking at the benefits and drawbacks of a settled lifestyle relative to nomadic, it's going to be pretty much an opposite of what we were looking at before, more or less. So let's have a look. Some benefits of a settled lifestyle. Again, I want you to pause here and actually think, because that's the best way to learn, and then come back. Number one, settling down provides a steady food and water supply in settlements. So if you settle near a lake or a river or something like that, you're ensuring that you've got a steady source. And specifically when we moved into agriculture, you don't have to worry about hunting and whether you're going to be successful because you have a sustainable source of food. And that requires less search time. So of course hunting, 90% of hunting is searching and chasing down prey. And you also insure yourself against droughts. So again, steady food supply, steady water supply in case things go wrong in the environment. Number two, you can support far more people with far less land when you move into agriculture. So this leads to collective learning, which is a function of an innovator density. So basically, when you can domesticate and farm animals, you can have less people and less space providing food for more people, and then you can have more people in your community who don't have to be involved with the food acquisition, and they can be doing other jobs like making tools, expanding on other areas of cultural innovation. And you basically provide opportunity for innovators in the community to, basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Cultivate their ideas, I guess. Not the word I wanted. But yeah, when you are nomadic and you are all hunter gathering for your own food source, you kind of have less time to exploit intelligence and things like that. And all of these ideas, by the way, are covered again in a video that I have linked at the bottom of these slides, which I would suggest you watch. It's a crash course video when you get extra time. So drawing on that point, having a settled lifestyle provides more time for experimenting, observing the environment, and provides what we call role specialization. So what I said before, you can have people whose jobs are specifically farming, and people whose jobs are specifically making tools or being leaders or inventing other things or doing art. So that wasn't possible before a settled lifestyle. Sorry, itchy ear. Okay. All right, next, you have the opportunity for manipulation of plants and animals. So this can propagate high levels of growth, which supports a large population. So you can basically decide what and how many things you farm, and it actually led to quite early evidence of selective breeding, deciding which plants were the best, making more of them, and accidentally domesticating a lot of plants and animals that would have provided a greater opportunity for sustenance. All right, come back to the second part of the screencast because I'm out of time. And yeah, bye.